Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to I can't even get my words out. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to League of Europe. We are here tonight for season number 8, Division 1. It is round number 4 of the championship as we take in our second of the American doubleheaders. Of course, it is Miami for round 4 of the championship at the Miami International Autodrome. My name is James Head. I'm going to be taking to the stream, as always, of course, on this fine Saturday evening. And joining me in the commentary box, as always, it is Mr. QVR. Killer, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. I had to do a double take there when you said Mr. QVR. I was like, I'm not in QVR. No, actually, yeah, I am in QVR. Weird how things pan out. But yeah, I am in a very good mood. I hope you are as well. And I'm excited. It's Miami. It's a new track. It's new territory for LOE. And the best thing about the fact it's a new track is I'm sure this track is pretty much universally hated by everyone in League of Europe, so that should make for some chaotic racing.
Yeah, I think it's universally hated, to be honest, across the league racing community, because I've seen many people complain about Miami. And then you get potential race of the season like we did in PSGL a couple of weeks ago. So it's one of those. It's a bit like Nutella, that you love it or hate it. What we don't love, though, of course, is Montana absolutely stealing away with the championship at this current moment in time. 86 points, of course. He took his third out of 3 wins so far this season in both of each and the sprint race, of course. Ruta there in second, Pease there in third. Rudy is a Packer, Jerome, Yilbin, Forza Brendan, Nico ran off the top 10, of course, last week. And Montana taking a 44-point advantage. Yes, I will take that back. A 44-point advantage over Rudy coming into tonight. Rudy there in second on 42. Ruta there in third on 41. Then Pease in fourth on 39. Then a big jump down with a next to the rest battle going on between Yilbin and Packer for fifth on 22 points. And then it's Justas in seventh on 18. Campbell in eighth on 15. Gary in ninth on 13. And Hyper there in 10th on 12 points. And looking at the standings, Montana dominant. We were just discussing before the stream, though. Nobody caught us, obviously, I hope, in terms of our communications before. Montana may struggle around here.
Yes, I mean, I said it's only hearsay, it's only whispers, but I've heard that this is not a particularly Montana-friendly track, and I think Gary was even, or someone was even suggesting that Gary might be outpacing Montana slightly. But then, as you said, James, it's Montana, so inevitably he'll pull through. He'll be up in time trial until 4 a.m., blinded by the darkness and the candlelight until he's doing 26 ones in qualifying, and he'll put everyone leave everyone in his dust and steal pole position and walk the race. But for now, I feel like we've got more hope than we have done up to this point that this could be a anti-Montana track, because we can't neglect to mention Montana, 86 points out of 89. He's only dropped 3 points this season, and so far, 1 in the sprint in the USA, the fastest lap point in Bahrain, and the fastest lap point in the sprint in USA. So he's dropped pittance so far. He's nearly got a perfect haul. So I think we are due for a turn to the table, as the kids say.
Yeah, definitely. So Montana, by the way, has put in the chat as well. Good evening to everyone that is tuning in so far. While we obviously wait for drivers to join the lobby, Montana has put in, this track is disgusting. Happy if I get top 8 tonight, not gonna lie. So if that's anything to go by, Montana doesn't believe in himself, let alone believe in other people around here. So Montana is obviously going to potentially struggle tonight. Opens up the door for the likes of Rudy to obviously come into contention. The likes of Campbell, I know, is quite strong around here. And the likes of our brand new driver, FRL Lou. And Lou is one of those drivers, potentially, that can absolutely take this race by the scruff of the neck. He has got very strong qualifying around here. It all depends, of course, on shaping up on this lap in Miami. And why don't we have a look at the track map in question, of course, at this time? 5.4 kilometres and then 3.3 miles, 19 turns awaiting our drivers out on track with the 2 DRS zones. No, so, sorry, 3 DRS zones. 1 down the start finish straight, 1 down in towards turn 11 at the left-hander, and then 1 down the whole back straight in towards turn number 17. Of course, the famous final couple of corners passing the Hard Rock Stadium. And Killer, obviously coming into tonight, it is one of those tracks. Our first visit to Miami, of course. How do you think the drivers will cope? Because Lou, as I mentioned to you just before we started, very strong contender potentially for the race win.
I mean, I don't know Lou's pace, so I'll have to back you on that one. If your money is on Lou, mine's on Wouter. I know Wouter has been a bit of a Miami merchant since this game's come out. But as you say, it's a very unique challenge. Street circuit in nature, if not technically, by definition. The walls come very close. The first sector has conjures images of the end of Vietnam, of course, that ghost track that we had one race on in LOE, never saw in real life, and a bit of a Jeddah complex as well. That tightening triple left-hander of turns 6, 7, and 8, very easy to catch you out there. So the curb's very high as well. Turns 1, 2, and 3, awful few sequence of corners. Difficult to know when to put the power down coming through turn 3. Wouldn't be too surprised if we see a car or two drop it there. Turn 17 is a pinch point. It's a huge overtaking opportunity. You mentioned at the end of that straight, but it narrows so quickly and it's so tight on the exit. The wall comes at you almost immediately if you go a little bit deep. So I think we could see some wings fly there. And then, of course, there's that infamous complex through turn 11 to 16, which is just the most fiddly, pesky, awful little sequence of corners you'll ever come across. I think the whole thing reminds me of the Singapore Sling, which to me is far more iconic. Bring back Singapore Sling. But yeah, it's just a miserable track. It's got no flow, is my overall bugbear with it. It's very start-stop with those long straights. There's S's or it's straights, and then there's a couple of hairpins thrown in. It's just an awful mix. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few, or more than a few, DNFs or spins and unscheduled pit stops at least.
Yeah, that's what happens, I think. Obviously, if they try and bring in, like Sochi did with the Olympic Village, obviously in Russia, they brought in the load of back streets basically around the Olympic Park. It's exactly what it is here in Miami. Just a whole load of back streets being put together into a track. It's Herman Tilke design track, of course, around the Hard Rock Stadium. Of course, we want American influence in Formula One, but by God, give us a better track than Miami, to be honest. And I'm sure these guys have been crying out for it as well before we get into tonight's action. That is for sure. Hopefully, though, we're going to get going very soon indeed. In fact, I could see drivers are now beginning to ready up. And good evening, by the way, to Jav in the comment section, to you there, Jake, in the comment section as well. Let me know in the comment section who you're supporting into tonight. There's a reminder of the championship standings and of last week's race result, of course, coming into tonight. Of course, we had the first of the sprint and the feature races as well. So that is obviously something to bear in mind in terms of the action. Parrot also saying as well, Montana, you probably still going to get top 3 today. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but then again, it will remain to be seen what is going to happen. And also Jav saying, we are doing very well indeed. Sunderland won earlier on. I didn't have a winner on the horses, unfortunately, at York, but still, we are getting, everything comes in threes, and hopefully this is going to be a really good race, of course, out on track tonight, and we are about to get going out on track here in Miami. It's an 18-minute qualifying session, not like we had, of course, last week with one-shot qualifying, and indeed the sprint and the feature race. We're back to normal in terms of the 50% race, which I believe around this track is either 28 or 29 laps, I think.
A shocking lack of preparation from both of us, because I'm not 100% sure either. I've got a feeling it's 28, but it doesn't matter too much. I think when we come to the race, we'll see. Oh my! I'll interrupt myself, because have a look at that. And if Montana had a little prayer, did a little rain dance, his prayers have been answered. Because if Montana's pace at the end of Imola was anything to go by, if that man was thinking he'll struggle to get top 8, which was a massive lie anyway, in qualifying, he's now going to get pole by about 5 seconds. So this has become a fight for second place, I think.
Potentially so. This is the first full wet qualifying session, however, I think all season, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously we got a wet race, I think was it Imola 2 weeks ago? Some track.
It was the last 10 laps or so of Imola. We had full heavy rain right in them, because that late safety car where a couple like Izat and Campbell went onto those full wets and made those huge last lap gains. But yeah, the second half of the Imola race was a wet one.
And one of our home drivers, the only home driver, of course, from America, Kvyat Packer, is the first man out on track in the Alpine, of course. Had very good pace, of course. He's in 5th in the championship as well. Packer, I think, has gone above expectations so far this season in terms of his actual performance out on track. How do you think he'll get on around here? Because, once again, the home crowd is on. If it's anything to judge by, though, last week in the Circuit of the Americas, he'll be well up there.
I think so. I fancy, if it's a race of attrition, I think that'll play into Packer's hands. He seems to, this season, he's eliminated some of those mistakes that have blighted his D2 title challenges, and he's just quietly going about his business. Last week was very impressive, particularly. We've got a wet race, apparently, which is exciting. Wet starts the race. But yeah, I think I've been very impressed with Packer this season. I've not noticed him too much, but yeah, he's come out with a lot of points so far, which I think is probably a credit to him. But I've not noticed him too much.
Yeah, definitely. So, looking at that, it was Hyper, by the way, that sent in the chat saying it is going to be a wet race. Not sure how that might actually affect. P's saying it's going to be dry, and that might back it up because I see on the rain symbol, although it says it's going to rain 5 minutes into the race, I think he's on about qualifying potentially in terms of the weather. He might have a little bit mixed up, or there's a bit of a glitch there on his end. But it says 3% of rain, so I don't think we're going to get that much in terms of rain at the beginning of the race. However, though, Packer's about to start his lap, coming through the left-hand of turn 18, now through the right-hand of turn 19, and now on the run to the line, with Packer on the run down and towards the famous turn number 1, of course, where we saw 4 wide in PSGL left 2. Don't want to go 4 wide through there. If anybody wants to do that, you are absolutely mad. As he now comes through the right-hander of turn number 3, through the right-hander of turn number 4, and then in towards this S section, of course, can catch people out. You normally can take it relatively flat out in the dry. Of course, you're only backing off into 5th gear around 2, and you can see Packer already very squirrely, very twitchy on this setup so far, as he now comes in toward the left-hand of turn number 7, all the way down, of course, in towards turn number 11 at the bottom end of the back straight, and Packer now with a 36.8 in the first sector, and he's looking quite good so far on his lap. Now right on board with him all the way down this long back straight. Gary has spun at the final corner, I think that is.
Yeah, just starting his lap. Sorry, Gary has dropped at the last corner.
Yeah, saw your yellow flag on the yellow flag, I should say, not the yellow fag, as I'm saying there. Packer's now coming to the right-hander of turn number 13. Then in towards the chicane, this will catch people out. You get caught on the inside curve there, you will end up spinning the car, and Packer's obviously having to go pretty much a 40 mile an hour, just like a road car basically would do through there. Packer now with a 13.5 in the middle sector. It's going to be nowhere near the fastest lap that we've seen so far out on track. Potentially, though, we're going to see more improvements. Lou, I know, is on a lap coming from the middle sector as well. For Packer on the run up the hill in towards turn number 17, on the run down the back straight, I should say, in towards turn 17. Through the left-hander at the final couple of corners, again very sideways out of turn 17, through the left-hander of turn 18, and then through the right-hander of turn 19. Remember, he's on very cold tyres, so potentially he'll get majority more laps on those seconds to 141.9 to start off the night, which is not too bad at all.
A decent lap from Packer, very exploratory. Campbell lowers the bar immediately by about 1.2 seconds. Maledictus has crashed at turn 3. I did say that might catch a couple of out. I didn't expect it to be quite so quick. But yeah, these lap times are going to come down now as we go through session, really on a 41.9, 42.9. Barocco, and what's happened there?
Campbell's just went sideways, coming out of turn number 3. He applied too much throttle, and he's lost his front wing. Luckily, he came off his lap. 40.7, as Yildirim now goes quickest with the 40.5, but that is not how Campbell wants to be started off his night, with a broken front wing entirely.
Yeah, 41.1 for Connor. I'm surprised Connor wasn't the first one to go this season he's had so far, but I think that's going to be part of the course decision. You're going to see drivers going left and right. I mean, you could tell when we were on board with Packer how much he was pointing left in the right-handed corners and how much he was pointing left in the right-handed corners. Montana hasn't had a quick opening lap. He did a 52.1, and I think it was invalid as well. But his second lap looking much tidier as he comes through turn 7, 8, and 9. Unlike Packer, he's not having to fight the car too much. Beaches his car a little bit over the curb, but that might just settle him down. I trust his judgment more than mine. But this looks a tidy second effort from Montana so far. 12 times on the board, although Gary, with that spin, is 13 seconds off the pace. So I think this could be a big lap for the Alpha Tauri drivers, although Gary's on a very slow second effort as well. But I think keep an eye on Montana, James.
Yeah, definitely so. Forza Brennan as well was on a lap, 41.5. He went 4th, had a Jeroen, had a Rudy, had a Packer as well. So that's going to fill him up with good confidence as well. The Irishman, of course, very much used to rain over in his country. Yildirim out on top, Campbell there in second, Connor there in third. Montana, though, 1:12.1 in the middle sector. Are you absolutely mad? He's a second quicker than Forza Brendan through the middle sector. And do you know what? I'm just going to put that on the line. This is going to be a 1:40.1 potentially from Montana on this lap. He's trying to pick up a cheeky bit of slipstream as well from the Haas in fact that is in front, and that actually is Pete as Connor now goes to the top. But for how long? Because Montana now coming around the final couple of corners, screwing the car at the final corner on the run to the line. And it's a 39.9 in that final sector in the end to produce a 39.9 in terms of his lap times. A very good lap time there by Montana. Connor there in second. You'll there in third. Rudy also got that improvement in 41.3. Hyper's 400's up. He's improving on in the lap as well. Wouter is a potential favourite, of course. You earmarked him as a performance potentially here tonight as he now comes through the right-hander of turn 13 and 14. And not looking too bad actually in this middle sector.
Yeah, he's on a very good first sector. He was 6 or 7 tenths up, I think it was, and we'll see where he is as he comes through turn 16. This will be the end of the middle sector. 12.4, he's a second up on his lap time. This will put him down towards the mid-low 40s, depending on how much time he's got in hand in these last couple of corners. He could even go quicker than Montana. The trouble is with the traction out of turn 17 and 18, it takes an eternity to get the full throttle down. I would be surprised if he even gets the full power down towards the line. Still at only 70% throttle all the way through. The car just wants to step out on him every opportunity, lifting off the throttle through turn 18. It's only a 40.4. I think that was a bit of a scruffy last couple of corners for Wouter, but certainly he's given himself a good base for the race if the track conditions don't improve. He's got a competitive time on the board. Is anyone else improving that I can see? Gary's improving slightly. Verstappen's on a big lap as well, coming through turn 17, I can see.
Yeah, Verstappen coming through the final couple of corners. The QVR man, of course, on the run toward the line. May go around 5th or 6th potentially with this lap. On the run to the line, goes 8th, just behind Packer. So not a bad lap there at all. Verstappen, of course, can improve going once again for multiple runs on that set of wet compound of tyres. The rain has eased and Montana just bangs in at 39.4 as you do in terms of your lap time. Not surprising at all. He's 5 tenths clear of his personal best previously, and now he's 8 tenths clear of Connor there, and Connor's just started up on another lap as well. Lou, by the way, I've been reliably informed is not here, because I've just actually spied on the left-hand side of my graphics. Lou is not here tonight. Not sure who's came in as a late change. Is it Reservoir, I think, that might have came in as a late change?
I'm not too sure, because we should have 20. I know Nico and Lou were both summoned, but neither are here. Lou was due to come in and thumbed up in the reserve order channel, but that's very bizarre. Let's have a look if we've got anyone else on a quick lap. We've got Connor is improving by 1.5 tenths through the first sector. So I think this could be a lap to rival Montana. I wonder if anyone is going to go for some intermediates before the end of the session, although it still looks like it's heavy. We had a brief yellow flag. I think that was just Connor's teammate of Hyper getting out of the way ahead of him. And let's see how Connor rides this through these this tricky, complex corners. Minor corrections here and there, nothing too major. This looks tidy from Connor. Second part of the chicane, oh, he's gone over turn 15, and that's invalid. And it was going to be a very good lap. I'd like to see if Connor can still get the power down to see what his middle sector time will be. But he decided to back off, much to my annoyance. But that was a very tidy looking lap from Connor, but not to be.
Yeah, Lou, by the way, just in terms of that, LFR wants him to race in a cash cup and they want to participate in a few minutes. Good to see where your priorities are, Lou, first and foremost. Montana out on top, Connor in second, Wouter there in third. Yildirim there in fourth as well. He's been looking quite good on a lap, as well as Campbell, who was on a lap. Of course, Connor invalidated on his lap, so right above with Campbell now coming through the right-hander of turn number 13. The frames, by the way, do not really give away. It is absolutely teeming down out on track currently, just like it is on my window right at this moment in time in real life as well. And Campbell has also done another invalidation coming out of the middle sector. It was 2 tenths up as well. Coming through that middle sector, he might bail and decide to come in the pit lane. Montana out on top, Connor there in second, Wouter there in third. Somebody has spun.
That is Connor at turn 3. So turn 3's second victim of the day. I think he nearly got in Gary's way as well. I just see what you're going to jump to Montana through the first sector. Montana is improving by another 700s and he's up by 8 tenths already. So if Montana was fearful of not making top 8, well, he can put those fears to rest. Julbrim's on a big lap as well. He's up by over half a second coming towards turn 17.
Yeah, Ben, by the way, in the chat, I'll just read that out. Montana, I'll be lucky to be in the top 8. Currently, 8 tenths clear out of everyone else in the field. And Montana obviously looking very, very quick on this lap as well. Sub 102 coming through turn 13 there. He might be around 4 tenths up potentially on this lap so far, and we'll see what Montana's like in the middle sector. Coming through this middle sector split, do you know what? He's 800ths up in terms of his lap time so far, 11.6 in the middle sector, so potentially going to go even quicker in terms of this lap time at this moment from the AlphaTauri man, who of course is out on top with 3 wins out of 3 to his name. Of course, he got it handed to him as well, nearly by Wouter last week in the sprint race. I think obviously Montana, in terms of that, came... Was he second at Montana in the sprint race? I think he was.
He was indeed. It's the only blip on his performance this season, as he heard us talking about him and felt the need to just remind us how good he is, as he sets 39.4. Worth noting as well, Gilbream has dipped under the 140 barrier as well, and he's improving by another 2 tenths on this lap. So Gilbream is in very good form right now. Campbell is improving as well, although his first sector wasn't quite on the level of what it was when he invalidated the lap before. So I think there's plenty of time in this track for lots and lots of drivers. But it's just not quite coming together for some of them. Izat is up by 3 tenths as well. He's just through the fiddly turns 14 and 15.
Gilbream coming through the middle sector. Oh, he's down in the middle sector. He lost a lot of time in that middle part of the lap. 500s down, in fact, on that lap. So Montana out on top, Gilbream in second, Connor there in third. You can tell by Gilbream just feathering the throttle on the run down and towards turn number 17. I think he has actually backed off his lap and is preparing for another run. We're just trying to ball with him because he might be actually lying, so we know he's into the pit lane. In fact, is Gilbream. Connor there in third, Campbell there in fourth. Campbell improved 5 tenths of a second as well in his lap, so 40.2 from him, and only 13 hundredths of a second behind Connor as well. So not a bad lap there at all from Campbell's perspective. Montana though out on top, he's obviously backed up his lap. Gilbream in second, Connor in third. Anybody else on the lap? I know Izza's just improved up to 6th.
He has indeed. I think Gladbach's improving, if my lap data's not lying to me. He's come through the middle sector now, and he is. He's done 12.4, up by a third of a second, which will bring him in towards Campbell range. Depends how much time he's got on the table in the third sector. He's looking very clustered out there on track. Everyone's going to be out on track pretty much permanently, doing lap after lap after lap, just gaining confidence, because a lot of these drivers, of course worth mentioning, won't have done a wet lap on this track in this game at all. So it will be a complete journey of discovery from all the way through the session. So we want to get as many laps as they can, and Gladbach on the line invalidates. I don't know why in the wet on earth you'd take the risk of using that curb on turn 18. These are a lot of raised curbs here. They do bottom the car out. They can send it flying in the dry, let alone the wet. So that was a ballsy move from Gladbach, and he paid the price, not with his front wing, but with his lap time.
Yeah, Pack has just gone into the top 10 as well, 40.9 from the Alpine man, the home hero, of course, in America. Rocco, I believe, was on the lap. He's backed off, though, I think, in the Mercedes. In fact, I think he might have a bit of front wing damage, potentially, on that car on the left side end plate. Just trying to decipher. Yeah, he is certainly wiggling about. I'm not sure if he's on a cold set of wet compounded tyres, potentially. So that might be the case. He's down there in 14th for now. Verstappen is up. He's coming toward the line, 40.8. He goes 8. As well ahead of Rudy by 0.02 of a second, so not bad at all. Seems like the fresh, wet, compounded tyres for now are the tyres to be on at this stage. But it's Montana out on top, Gilbream in second, Connor there in third. Let me know in the comment section who you're supporting, of course, coming into tonight. As we mentioned, Lou not making it, sadly, here tonight. He has obviously got priorities better and wants to participate for a little bit of money, which I don't blame him, to be honest, but still, it is, of course, good to be participating elsewhere as well as in LOE, which I think, obviously, if I was one of the admins, I'd be absolutely shocked at what I've just said there.
If I was Larkin, I'll be surprised if Lou's not already blacklisted, to be honest. Jerome's coming towards the line, and he's on a quick lap, 40.599. Nips himself in that nice little gap between Izat and Gladbach. As you mentioned, a lot of drivers come into the pits now for another set of tyres. Gladbach is one of those. Verstappen is on a cool down lap. Have we got anyone else? Packer is up by 2 tenths per second. Coming towards turn 17, goes a little bit deep into the hairpin, and then has to catch it, not 1 but 2, more 3 snaps of oversteer on the exit. Floors it through turn 18, tiny confidence lift. Packer improves to P8, a 40.6, just ahead of his stand-in teammate there.
Yeah, getting a lot more confidence, I've got to say, Packer so far in the session. Going into 8th, jumping 4 positions there in terms of his lap time. Izza there is also on a lap as well. I think he's coming to the middle sector. In comparison, by the way, Montana won 11.6 in the middle sector. I was on with Pease there. Pease was a 13.3 in the middle sector and a 13.5 from Izza. He's down in his lap time by a second or so. So Montana obviously has got many, many tenths per second ahead. Obviously, on the rest of the field at the stage, 5 tenths per second to Yildirim, and more than 8 tenths per second as well to Connor, who's there in 3rd position, and pretty much a second to Wouter there, who's in 5th position. Not the closest qualifying you're going to see all weekend, I'm sure for that. And Jav saying top 10, he said, and Funky Chicken also supporting the Irish, Brenda and Gary, which is really good to see. And obviously, we're going to be seeing some more lap times coming very shortly. Indeed, Montana is about to start another lap. Dare I say he's going to improve maybe into the 38 with this one?
It wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think he's with some fresh tyres. I don't know how much advantage they'll give on the wets. It'll be less than the Inters, but I'm sure there's time in there for Montana, no question. I want to give a shout out to J. Cole. It's 100 seconds to get around the track, and he left the pits with like 1 minute 35 to go as he came out of pit exit. So J. Cole slightly has mistimed his attempt at his last effort. Connor isn't improving through the first sector, 35.9 for him. Campbell is coming through turn 4 and 5 now. Is anyone on a quick lap? Izat's down on this lap. I don't think anyone is improving right now. So we should, let's have a look at Montana. Should we come in through turn 3 and towards the S's, beaching his car over the inside curb? I imagine just to try and settle it down a little bit on traction, still has to fight it. Coming towards turn 4, mounting the curbs as much as he can to get the rotation in. And now the triple left-hander of 6, 7 and 8. There's no danger here of the car running out wide as there is in the dry. No invalidation there. Where's he going to be through the end of the first sector? It looks a bit tame. Catches another slide, and he's 7/1000ths up as Yildirim has retired from the session. I think that's in the pit lane.
No, it's not to the final corner. He's spun coming to the final corner. He's got beached on the curb. I think he's went straight into the pit wall. We just caught on board with that very late. As I was running on board with Connor, who's actually up on his time. He's coming through the final couple of corners now. He's 2 tenths up, currently on his time, on the run to the line. And he goes very, very quickly in that final sector. Goes within a 10th, I think, of Montana, who's up by 7,000ths of a second coming through the middle sector. Campbell also on a lap at 112.1 in the middle sector. He's not going to challenge pole position unless he finds an absolute miracle. Final sector potentially here. Montana out on top, Connor in second. Yildirim there in third. We'll watch for Campbell. Woots is now coming through the final couple of corners in the first sector, at least. I think he's done on a lap. Campbell to the line, does improve but stays in 4th. Montana's 500 up out of the middle sector, now running up the hill in towards turn 17, and now potentially going to be for a straight 4 out of 4 in terms of pole position potentially here, with Connor going to be on the second row, on the first row of the grid alongside him. Montana on the run to the line, 39.2. How do you like them apples? He just absolutely demolishes Yildirim's front wing, as well as the Haas has spun in the final couple of quarters. I think that was Pease as well that had spun, if I'm not mistaken. Wouter is up by 6 tenths.
Wouter's on a huge lap here as Packer goes into P5. Big lap from the Alpine driver. Wouter, this could fling him towards the front row of the grid. Just 17 and 18 to go. His heart rate will be through the roof, picking that braking spot, but he gets his turn in nicely. Beautiful. Doesn't get greedy on the exit. That is lovely from Wouter. Not having to catch it too much, no corrections. This is lovely through 17 and 18. Stay to the right for the line, and it's a 39.7 just off the front row, but big lap from Wouter. P3 there. He's very much in the fight for this win.
Yeah, definitely. So Verstappen, I think, improved there into 12th as well. I think he improved his position improved his time rather than his position there in 12th. And of course, we wait for Hyper to retire from the pit lane. But it's Montana out on top. He said it was going to be a potential top 8. I think the weather gods are with him, certainly. It's an NSX 1-2 as well, him and Connor on the front row of the grid. And how we like to see this battle between these guys, of course, out on track. But still, 3.5 tenths covering. First and second is absolutely unbelievable. It's Montana out on top, Connor there in second, Wouter in third, Yildirim in fourth, Campbell in fifth, and I'd just like to say congratulations to those 4 for getting within a second of Montana around on a wet compound lap around here in Miami. Packer there in 6th, Gary there in 7th, Izza there in 8th, Yaron in 9th, Rudy down in 10th position. Watch out for him if it's a dry, full race. Glad back in 11th, Verstappen in 12th, Pease, Rocco and Brendan round off the top 15. Only 5,000ths of a second actually separating him and Rocco. Piper, Jekyll, Rezify getting laps timed in. Maledictus, of course, crashed around the final corner, and that is why he is out of the session right down at the back of the field. But it's Montana out on top, Connor in second. Who else? Who else in terms of pole position?
A bit like the boy who cried wolf, isn't it? I suppose when anyone who's in a championship leading position, be it QRT Timon, who was fond of it last season Division 2, or NSX Montana this season Division 1, I feel like we should just completely ignore anything they have to say about their pace, or any rumours we might hear on the street. That'll show me for passing on hearsay. But I think it speaks more to Montana's command of the wet, perhaps, than it does actually him telling fibs, because it just hammers home that he said such a convincing margin of pole, three tenths of a second. And what we saw at Imola as well, where he romped away by 2 seconds a lap or 4 seconds a lap in the last 2 laps after that safety car restart. He is just on another plane of existence in the wet. In the dry, as it is now, we might see a more competitive battle like we saw between Montana and Wouter at the USA Sprint last week. I'm hoping Connor can survive the first lap, which would be an encouraging change of form from early this season so far, and we can get a 3-way battle for the win. A couple of drivers are out of position as well. I think Pease is out of position, couldn't get a really good lap together. Of course, Julbream had that crash at the end. I think there's multiple drivers who get involved in this. Gary's got great pace, and obviously the wet won't have helped him too much. So I want to believe this is still all to play for.
Yeah, Rudy's got very good lap times around here as well in terms of dry competitiveness. So watch out for him. He's starting, I think, in 10th position as well. Dan, by the way, stating the obvious, I think, in the chat as well, saying from the practice stars I've been hearing throughout the week, the wet weather has given us a very mixed-up grid. Yeah, to state the obvious, Captain Hindsight, I think I want to say from there, to be honest. But, obviously, he is completely right in what he says, of course, the absolute goals. And we're about to get going for the formation lap. I've been used to, obviously, trying to commentate on 5 red lights going out. We do get a formation lap to go through everyone's strategies. And judging by the strategies that we've got, Hyper, I think, the game is absolutely light to him. Majority of drivers going on a set of hard compounded tyres, apart from Montana, Connor, and Gladbach, who are on a set of medium compounded tyres. So that states to me, Killer Blue, we are in for a dry race, I think, throughout.
I think we are. I'm not sure why Gladbach's gone for mediums. I think hard medium is the quicker strategy, but it absolutely makes sense for Montana and Connor. At the front, they can dictate the pace, they can get on those wheels, get on the quicker tyre, break the DRS in the first few laps, do what Montana tried to do last week to Wouter, and did successfully to Wouter last week at USA, run away on the softer tyre in the first stint, and then take the pain a little bit later on for the sake of some clean air and some good lap times early on. And I think that's the right way to go. If you're at the front, go for the mediums. Otherwise, pluck for the hards. And I think everyone is on the same wavelength on that. I'm surprised though we've not seen one or two perhaps who are more out of position, like Rudy, like Pease, even like Reservoir shown a lot of pace so far this season. Oh, Julbream's disconnected there. Go for the medium, try and regain some of that ground they lost in qualifying. But I suppose you want to be on the right strategy, and the right strategy I think is a hard medium. Julbream is back with us.
Yeah, good to see Julbream back. Obviously, I think there was a bit of a technical hitch maybe on his end. They're in 4th position. Jab, by the way, in the comment section saying Montana, Wouter and Campbell, his podiums. That is obviously going to be very interesting to see. Julbream again has left. Not sure if there's a bit of a disconnect going on Julbream's end in terms of Wi-Fi. Maybe restart the game and then join back at the end of lap 1. Could be the best.
Might be because he can't take control of his car in the formation lap. I've got a feeling I could. Oh, and Gary is. Hope that's not a sign of things for the race. As Gary drops it on the straight. I think the less said about that, the better for Gary's sake.
I didn't actually catch that, to be honest. In my hindsight of vision, I didn't actually catch that. I just saw an AlphaTauri round in the background. Didn't know who it was until you said it was Gary in the last. So Montana out on top, Gary there. Sorry, not Gary in second. Connor there in second. Wouter there in third. Killer, I'm going to come across to you. Who is your top 3?
Montana, Wouter, and I'm going to say Gary. He's going to break his duck of bottling the races and getting involved in this. He's going to keep his nose clean for a change. Wouter's disqualified from the session. Gary, so they'll have a slightly compromised start to this race. They'll be a little further back in their grid spots than those around them. Yeah,
I'm going to go Connor, Montana, Campbell as an assured top 3. I think Connor might just have the pace of Montana in terms of what I've certainly seen from Montana here in Miami. But the 5 red lights are about to come out, of course. Hopefully they're all 4 wide in towards turn 1, and we've got 5 red lights on, and it is Light down, away we go. Montana gets a very good start. Connor, though, reacts quicker, and Connor's going to be side by side with them down in towards turn number 1. And look at Connor down the inside line. The Aston Martin goes into the lead of the race, and there's already 3 wide in the background. Wouter, Campbell, and Yulbreen, Packer, Gary, all involved in that. I think there's been an incident further down the field. J. Cole has lost multiple positions. Izza has down a few positions as well. But Connor there leads the way. Coming through the first sector, Montana in second. Wouter there in third. Not sure what's happened further down the field. Yulbreen was absolutely slept off the start. He's there in 4th position. Everyone, I think, has had to stay behind for some reason. Packer Rudy has gained a few positions. He's already up into 6th position, and now Packer all over the back of Yulbreen, who I think has taken control of his car. He might just be a bit desynced on our end. Connor leads the way on the run down in towards turn 11 for the first time, with Montana there in second, Wouter there in third, Rudy right on the back of Packer. The Williams and the Alpine are now going to go side by side. Hopefully no heroics in towards turn 11. Rudy's so late on the brakes, he has to take a board in action, but you know what? He gets around the outside of both of them as Yulbreen was contacted there by Packer. Rocco around in the background, I think, as well. Forza Brendan's dropping down the field, but Connor leads the way. Montana in second, Wouter in third, Rudy in fourth. Brilliant move around the outside of turn 11. Yulbreen very unfortunate there with contact on Packer. He has absolutely stepped off the start. It's almost as if he's got a ghost driving through.
That was the top 3 have absolutely run away with this. Jerome's going to make a move on Yulbreen. It's not been a good couple of laps for Yulbreen, if we can count formation lap. And Jerome has been in the wars this lap. He turned Izzat round at turn 1, hit the back of the Ferrari. That's why Izzat's all the way down in 18th place right now. He then passed Gary around the outside of turn 8, hit the wall as well. Jerome's had a chaotic lap, but the top 3, James, have capped the field by 3.4 seconds in a lap. And credit to Wouter in all of this, as we've got Pease in the pit lane with some damage. Wouter's hanging with the top 3 on those hard tyres. He has got pace as that man.
He is indeed. Connor, though, leading the way. Montana there in second, Wouter in third. And do you know what? If I was the NSX boys, I'd be working together at this point, because Wouter, I know he's on the sort of hard compounded tyres. He looks like he's got almost those tyres up to 100% temperature right at the start of the race. It was phenomenal to see. Rudy there in fourth, Packer there in fifth, Campbell and Gladbach are going side by side as well. I think Gladbach might have had a bit of contact there with Campbell, and Campbell there's up into 9th, Gladbach there in 10th, Piper there in 11th, Verstappen there in 12th as well, trying to hunt down all the way down in towards turn 11. I think obviously the main position losers were Izza. Pease as well has dropped 6 positions off the start, and 4 positions lost to Campbell, because now he might lose another one to Gladbach, who tries to go down the inside line but doesn't actually risk the move, and it's fun, and that leads the way. Montana in second. Do you know what? The NSX boys now working together. Router there in third, Rudy's away in fourth, Packer and Euron are the ones that's struggling and creating a big bottleneck basically halfway down the field.
Yeah, they've done well, Montana and Connor, to gap Wouter. That's crucial for the DRS. Gladbach has some huge damage as there goes Jerome passing Packer P5. Jerome's little adventure of the first couple of laps continues, and I wonder if Packer can stay with him, or if Packer might even have some damage. I doubt it. I think the top 4 have just got so much pace. But yeah, Gladbach has got some big damage, but he's not pitting. His front left end plate is completely missing. And you mentioned as well Campbell. I don't know what happened to him on lap 1, but he's lost about 7 or 8 places, and then he's gained about 3 or 4 of them back since. DRS now in effect, and is Montana going to seize the first opportunity to dispatch his NSX colleague? I think he is. He's holding within 4.5 tenths of a second of Connor, and we've got a big, nice, juicy DRS zone coming up right now. And I think Montana, if he doesn't make it now, he's going to make that move into turn 17.
I think he'll wait. I think he'll wait until the pit stops. Connor is quicker. Connor is a lot quicker, and he saved more battery in the first 2 laps as well. So Connor has got around, I think, 15-16% advantage over Montana running down the straight there if he was to use the battery. Of course, in the middle sector, you can use it up to really good effect and obviously save that up. Piper and Gladbach are, by the way, side by side now down in towards turn number 11. You mentioned there with the left-hand side end plate damage for Gladbach. Piper there trying to go all the way around the outside, but with an understeering car on the inside of you, don't want to be doing that. And Gladbach there in 10th, Piper there in 11th, Verstappen there in 12th, and Rocco and Maledictus have now joined the Gladbach train currently as well down in 10th position. Nothing really happening towards the front end of the field, but Piper though is going to make the light work, I think, of Gladbach running down the straight here in towards turn 17. It's Connor out on top, Montana second, Wouter in third. Already pulled 2 seconds, by the way, Montana over Wouter. Here comes Hyper, though, on the back, down the straight, in towards turn 17. He's gone way too deep into the corner, puts Gladbach there with him, and that's actually a really good move in the end. Hyper through, and he's into 10th, and Gladbach's into the pit lane with that left side end plate damage on the car, and now frees up the likes of Verstappen, Rocco, and Maledictus, who I think is catching Rocco as well, down the straight in towards turn 1.
I think Gladbach tried to hang that out, realised it wasn't going to work, had to bail into the pits. It's released that little gaggle of cars. Tell you what, it's a very un-D1-like race. We've got quite a few splits in the train. We've got Giroud still leading Packer. Packer not really holding too close to the back of the Mercedes. Giroud looks like he's got the upper hand on pace right now. Peace at fastest lap on soft. So clearly that's a glory run if ever I saw one, expecting a safety car at some point. But Jules Bream and Gary Campbell are all sort of a little bit out of position here behind Packer and John, who I think they're both quicker than. You mentioned we've got Rocco and Maledictus actually going out towards Rocco's already derating, and Maledictus is going to be easy pickings for the McLaren man towards turn 12. And I thought Isaac was going to fancy move then, but too far back. But Rocco looks like he's struggling a little bit in these first few laps, and Wouter, I said briefly he was hanging with the top two. Well, he's 2.6 seconds back. It has turned into a two-horse race out front, very much so. But Rudy isn't making any progress on Wouter either. So those top two in a league of their own right now.
Yeah, he's kept it at 3.4 seconds, Rudy. Here comes Izza, by the way, and Rocco. Rocco must have damage on that car, or he's otherwise got a wet setup potentially on that car as Izza is through, and he's into P13 down the straight. Rocco is still there, though, with the side draft coming into effect. He might try and think about getting the undercut. Oh, and there's contact in behind us. Brendan goes down the inside of Rocco, forces the contact there, and Rocco has spun. Brendan has spun as well, and now let's Jacob potentially for reposition as well. He's into 15th, and Rocco and Brendan come together in towards turn number 1. I think one Irishman was too late on the Brit there and falls Brendan down in 17th, Rocco in 16th. But at least it's worked out in Rocco's favour. Otherwise, I think Brendan might have escaped the scene there.
Yeah, I don't want to be too disparaging, but we've seen a few little silly mistakes from Brendan. I didn't catch that myself, but yeah, naughty from Brendan. Probably, as I said earlier on, that's such a tight entry and tight exit as well. You've got to be absolutely sure you can make no takers. We just saw Brendan there going very wide at turn 8 on the exit, that long sweeping hairpin. Stewards are monitoring the track limits there if anyone gets a little too greedy. I think we're going to see Brendan have a second stab at Rocco here, although Rocco has, for now, he can cling on. He's got some DRS on the back of J. Cole. And I will mention J. Cole briefly because it could be a factor later on. J. Cole is having persistent, or has been having persistent wheel disconnection issues. And on a track with where the walls are close, shall we say, as Resify picks up a first 3-second penalty of the day, a wheel disconnection could have massive ramifications for the race at large, were it to send J. Cole into a barrier and bring out a safety car. So if we see J. Cole have a bizarre collision, just to forewarn you, that's what it could well be. Wouter now 3.2 seconds off the lead, but he's still pulling away from Rudy. They've got nothing to Montana and Connor. I keep waiting for these medium tyres to go off. They're just not yet.
Yeah, they're not, and they will last until around, I would say, lap 13, lap 14, to potentially until the halfway stage. These mediums can last out on track, and that's obviously before they start going off the cliff. So Connor and Montana have still got performance. Wouter, however, is beginning to gain, finally, on that compound of tyre. He took 0.2 of a second out in the final sector, 0.2 of a second now out in the first sector. He's got clear air to run into, and he's pulling away from Rudy by 0.5 of a second as well. So Wouter has now got the pace. The hards are coming back into play, and I would say in about 4 or 5 laps time, might be on the back of Connor and Montana before too long as well. Campbell and Gary, by the way, is another battle, potentially with the DRS train obviously forming in front, but Campbell has got quick pace on the back of Gary, and obviously if Gary was to break off that train, Campbell would have an easy move, I think, on the Irishman in front and in the battle of the Gaelics, let's say, between Campbell and Gary. Gary there in 8th, of course, Campbell there in 9th, and both, of course, part of QVR team, once former rivals in Excel and QVR. Of course, he'll be beginning to pull away there on the back of Packer. He made a slight mistake coming out of turn 16 there, and on the run down the straight, nothing really happening further down the field apart from Verstappen on the back of Pfeiffer potentially, and Izza on the back of Maledictus. And I think this one is going to be the move potentially for P12 for the final points scoring position so far. Izza down the inside line, there's the breaking point in towards the 100 metre board, gets the car turned in, and Maledictus does not want to fight that one, and Izza makes light work, and he's doing his into 12th.
Isaac recovered well from that first lap murder by Giroud. Although I did see Isaac ghost, so I'm not sure if there might have been a little bit of desync there that caused the contact, because the instant he was hit by Giroud, he was already ghosted. So that will be one to sort after the race, I'm sure. But Isaac mounting a solid comeback there, and I'm just having a look at Jules Bream, who's hanging quite close to the back of Packer, certainly close to Packer, and Packer is to Giroud, as Giroud gets very out of shape round turn 8. I want to have a look at how the ERS is looking here, and indeed, as soon as I turn it on, see Rudy's on 0%, Jerome's on 0%, Packer's on 17, Jewelbream's on 16, Gary's on 11, Campbell's on 0. I don't think anyone's been too conservative with their ERS, apart from our race leader who's on 43%. And yes, there goes Verstappen up the inside of Hyper for P10, but I wouldn't be shocked, James, if we see Hyper nab that place back in, about 4 corners' time.
Yeah, probably so. Verstappen, though, ran the outside of turn 11, got the job done, was late on the brakes, and actually has a mistake coming out the chicane. And now Hyper's back on the inside line, and you said it was going to happen in about 4 corners' time. Might still, because he has actually lost the position once again. Hyper with 35% of ERS. Verstappen just giving a little bit of wee, maybe to keep the dirt off the tyres, but he's running a very high 7th gear there, Hyper. Is he going to try and attack on the back of Verstappen? I don't think he will, and Verstappen is let to play. But you can see the flashing light in terms of low ERS there from Verstappen. Hyper now at the final corner through turn 18, through turn 19. He's right on the back, down in towards turn number 1. If he opened up that battery, he would have got the move done, but he's just sitting and waiting behind for now. Not the best thing, especially when you obviously jackhammer into the back of your rival in front.
Yes, and hopefully, for Hyper's sake, that's not got him any damage. I don't know if it's a visual glitch, I presume not, but Hyper wasn't using DRS down the pit straight.
No.
Wasn't using it down the back straight towards turn 17 either. So I'm not sure what the game plan is there from Hyper. Campbell ahead, not someone you'd expect, has picked up a 3-second penalty, our second of the race, and is mounting, I'd say a mini assault on Gary because he's got his ERS on, but there is no ERS really to deploy at this point. But have a look ahead, Jewelbream close to the back of Packer. Packer has now slipped out of DRS from Jerome, so we could start to see some moves in the not too distant future in the battle for P6 here.
Yeah, definitely so. Campbell has been on the back of Gary for about the last 3 or 4 laps now. And I always want to see him obviously try and get this move done. He's got 10% of battery, and now he lines himself up as both Hyper and Verstappen just picked up 3-second penalties as well. Will Campbell now launch the assault on the back of the Irishman of Gary? The last time, of course, Jewelbream actually going to launch an assault on the back of Packer. Got very close there on the back of him, but doesn't get quite close enough. And same with Campbell on the back of Gary. I was going to say the last time the Irishman and the Scotsman fought out in terms of LOE, they think they came into contact with Campbell on the back of Gary, running down in towards turn number 1. Further down the field, one Irishman beginning to lose the position, actually puts Jake Holland to the wall. Brendan there, down in 15th position, forces Jake on the wall, and I think we've just seen him move for 6th as Jewelbream is through on Packer.
We have Jewelbream up into P6 again. Looked a little bit naughty from Brendan. There's no room on the exit there. You've got to be committed to that move, but committed for yourself and for the other car as well. Otherwise, you could end up, as you say, forcing your rival into a wall. We're going to see Packer try and return the compliment to Jewelbream now over towards turn 11, because Packer has got a little more ERS to play with. You can see Jewelbream's light blinking away, but if I was Packer, I'd keep that ERS in check for a rainy day, because he doesn't know when he's going to need it. Although Gary is fancy move here. I think Gary's running some lower wings than Packer by how much he's gaining there down the straight, because Packer's got slipstream as well. So I think Gary running lower wings than his American colleague right now, and Campbell will just be praying behind that something can happen as he really pushing Gary through the chicane there, 14 and 15. We'll see though if Jewelbream can make a break for it from Packer now.
Campbell once again on the back of Gary coming out of turn 16. He looks as if he's going to get 90% of this move done, and then in the final 10% he runs out of battery, runs out of pace down the straight, and must have a very, very high 8th gear for him to do that. As Gary goes a little bit too deep though in towards turn 17, this could open up the opportunity for Campbell to finally maybe think about getting the move done. Once again, running very low in terms of ERS, and this is not going to be happening down in towards turn number 1 once again. Something of this though is a run on the back of Hyper, just in behind camera shot, and now the Ferrari on the back of the Aston Martin. But think about the lunge down the inside of the Singaporean. Hyper goes too deep. There should be his move around the outside of turn number 1, now to the inside of turn 2, now to the inside of turn number 3. Is absolutely easy through, and he's into 11th and takes candy from a baby.
Is that made that look far easier than it was? Those sequences of corners, particularly hard tyres, aging hard tyres as well now. So it's 1, 2, 3, awful. The track has no grip whatsoever. It's a low grip surface, and is that made that look a lot cleaner and easier than it was? That would have been, he would have been feathering the throttle all the way through there, and Maledictus is joining back to the back of this group as well. So we've got a little Verstappen train, we've got a Jewelbream train, who hasn't managed to break away from Packer, and Packer does have all of that ERS in hand. So I think If Packer gets a whiff here, he could be back through. But the trouble is for Campbell behind that the pace is too evenly matched for Campbell to make any kind of indentation on Gary, because as you keep pointing out, Campbell is visibly quicker, at least than Gary, probably than Packer as well, and maybe even Jewelbury, because of course he lost all those places off the start. But he just can't make any progress with the DRS train.
Yeah, move potentially on
here.
No,
he's gone for it. Oh my, that was ill-advised. That was stupid from Campbell. It was desperate. It was also stupid. And Gary will be saying some choice words, I'm sure, in his party chat.
I was going to say, a much easier move that was going to happen was J. Cole on the back and falls of Brendan, and that has happened. So J. Cole through, and he's into 15th. Brendan, I think, just let him through there, and now J. Cole through, and he's into 15th. Beginning to put the pace on as well. Maybe to catch Reservoir, he's only 2 seconds up the road. 2 seconds is normally a lifetime around this track, but trust me, when I say this, it's normally not. Connor leading the way, 7.5 tenths of a second over Montana. Been watching these two, and Montana is only visibly quicker down the straight, and that's only because he's got DRS and ERS to try and obviously use. Connor has not used up that battery. There's a yellow flag in sector 1, that's Reservoir that has spun through turn number 7, I think that is. So Reservoir ran through turn number 7, he got caught, I think, on the inside curve coming to the S section. But just pointing out, through this middle section, Connor is so much quicker than Montana. I'd say he's around 4 tenths quicker than Montana, just through that little snaking section, through the chicane, through the complex in the middle sector. And Montana's having to use and force himself to use that battery to try and catch Connor. Connor has got Montana's number. I know it's only lap 11 out of 29. Connor has got Montana's number. Keeps his pace up for the 29 laps. Connor will win.
Connor seems to have just Montana just about covered off right now. The gap hasn't dipped under half a second for a while. And as you say, Montana, no ERS to speak of now. He was sitting relatively comfortable on around 30% a few laps ago. He's now down to 8%, and that's at the best of times at the end of a braking zone. Down the straights, he's in 3 or 4%. So Montana hanging on to his NSX colleague just a little bit for now. I think Wouter is... But his pace has just dipped off a little. He's fallen back to about 4.5 from Montana, and Rudy has gained a few tenths on that in the process. So I wonder if Wouter's had a scruffy lap or so. Jewelbury has very nearly, finally, gapped Packer. And Packer, thanks to that assault, shall we say, from Campbell on the back of Gary, this trade is now quite spread out. Campbell out of DRS, Gary out of DRS. It's just Packer that's sitting on the back of Jordan, and even that doesn't look like it'll be the case for too much longer. It's starting to spread out as we get towards the pit stop. Our only battle on track is that Verstappen one, and is that very close for a move now into turn 11.
I think he'll go for it in towards turn 11 as well. Look at the closing speed of the Ferrari on the back of the Alfa Romeo. Going to go side by side with them. There's Verstappen on the left-hand side, and Verstappen's surely gone too deep in towards turn 11. Izza with the up and under through turn number 12. Not quite close enough. Doesn't want to risk it, actually, Izza. Don't blame him, because he has got the back straight obviously still to come towards turn 17. But if I was Izza, I probably would have gone for that move, to be honest, and tried to dispose him out of the slipstream lane through the complex with Verstappen in my dirty air. And at this moment in time, Izza there, 4.5 tenths away, not going to be 4.5 tenths away for long. He's waited until the straight, and this is why you don't listen to me. I think everyone in the comments as Izza breezes on by on Verstappen. Maledictus breezing on by, Hyper in the background as well. 2x2 into Noah's Ark. We go through turn 17, and Maledictus is through on Hyper as well, and he's into 12th position. Hyper right on the re-wing that Maledictus got job done, and he's through, and Verstappen's going to try and attack Izza once again, and towards turn number 1, not quite close enough. So 2 moves there, Izza through, and he's into 10th, and Maledictus through, and he's into the final point scoring position in 12th. But the pit stops still yet to happen, and Wouter, by the way, 4.6 seconds behind Montana and Connor. If it wasn't for the DRS and the ERS that Montana had to use on the back of Connor, Wouter, I think, would have been catching them and would have been probably under 2.5 seconds.
I think Wouter's in a great place for the second stint of this race. Say that, he's just made a mistake somewhere, or actually just coming into the braking zone. It's just the DRS effect. The gap jumped to 4.8. And something else I want to point out, I think Gary has accumulated some damage from that Campbell attack. Nothing visible on the front wing. It wasn't front wing contact, but I think he may be carrying some side pod or floor damage because he is hemorrhaging time to Campbell, and Izat is gaining in fairly quickly as well. Gary was right on the back of this. He was around 1.2 behind Campbell briefly. I know Campbell's got some DRS from the back of Packer and may well make that move for P7 now, but I think Gary has picked up some damage in the process, and once again, Gary at the wrong end of the luck in this race as Campbell makes that move. Packer doesn't even want to fight that into the braking zone. He lets Montana's in the pits, so that's our first pit stop. But Packer lets Campbell go. Campbell up into P7 now, continuing his very slow recovery from that difficult first lap.
Montana into the pit lane then, and it's only Connor that is out there currently that is on that set of medium compound tyres. The only other one, I think, was Gladbach, and he's well down in 18th position. So Montana coming out the pit lane. Look where he's coming out. He's right by side with Gary, his teammate, coming out the pit lane. And Gary, is it going to be let through by Montana here? Are they going to work together? I think not, because the Irishman has got a bit of damage. Montana has got very cold tyres, and this intra effect is going to bring Izza right into play. And Gary, with much fresher tyres down the inside line, gets Montana, and that is not good. Well, potentially good news for Montana. Not good news, though, if you're Izza, because he is still outside of a second. And would have liked, I think, Montana to obviously try and gain on the back of Gary. And speaking of gaining, he is on the back of him once again. The two AlphaTauris going side by side. This should be easy for the Swissman. The Irishman doesn't even want to fight that, to be honest, and he lets the all-time king of Montana through, and he's into 8th position. Gary there down into 9th. What will the response be further down the field, though? Because Connor leading the way, 5.8 seconds over Wouter. Wouter now in clear air. Connor does not have any DRS and ERS to use. Judging by the ERS usage this lap around, he'll be in the pits, and it's exactly what he is doing. He's into the pit lane, so Connor, will Wouter now follow him in? Because I think Wouter should do, but he continues on at least another lap. So Connor into the pit lane, from a set of mediums onto a set of hard compound tyres, and at this moment in time, as Reservoir is quick with a 3-second penalty, this will be for a set of hard compound tyres. Montana, by the way, is out of the final corner, and he's still got Gary within the slipstream range as well, so this could be quite close.
It could be very close. I think Connor will come out ahead, but then Montana will have that warm-up phase, and what have you seen, James?
Connor's just nearly went in the wall, coming out the pit lane, sideways, pretty much on the pit lane exit. How on earth he has kept that out of the wall, I do not know. Connor, though, I think has got more of a lead over Montana coming out the pit lane. This potentially could be outside of a second.
It is, but remember, Montana's been through that warm-up phase. He's going to close all the way up through his first sector. He's bringing the gap down, but he's not brought it down enough. I was going to say how well coordinated that was last lap between the 12 Taris. Gary just nipped through, gave Montana the DRS, gave Montana those extra couple of tenths, but it's not quite enough. Montana is outside. He's got no ERS at all now as Montana, and he's paid the price for that sloppy outlap because he's not quite within the second that he needs. He needs to hustle the car through this middle sector, make the most of it, and I think Connor's tyres aren't quite up yet, and Montana has just saved himself there.
Yeah, he has. I think, honestly, Connor's tyres, I think, are now up to temperature. They're just about 2 or 3 tenths off, maybe, in terms of lap time. Montana is on the back. Going to try and close down. Campbell, by the way, on the back of Yildirim, just in front of camera shot. Now pulls the left-hand side. Around the outside he goes, into the braking zone, goes a little bit too deep. Should get the car stopped though, and Campbell is through and he's into 4th. Nice move there. And both into the pit lane. And I think Wouter has also followed in as well. No, sorry, Jeroen has followed in.
Yeah, Wouter and Rudy's still out. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that unless you're going to go along for a safety car. There's no point in that. Softs for who? Campbell has put hards on.
No, I'm saying
Campbell...
he's
not come in yet.
I'm saying Wouter and Rudy potentially softs.
Oh, yes, I get you. Possibly. I'm not sure. I feel like the softs won't make it in terms of pace. But we shall see. Where's Campbell going to come out? He's ahead of Julbream. Still, he's not been shafted by the pit exit, but Julbream has, because look at that, he's out behind Packer and he's out behind Rocco as well. That is a huge dub. The QVR Campbell, that he's gapped. He's got 2 cars between himself and Julbream. That is massive for Campbell.
For how long, though? Because obviously Campbell's tyres are now pretty much going to be up to temperature. Rocco and Packer are right in the back of him. If he's not careful, Campbell is going to drop behind both of these down the straight, and Packer is going to use up his ERS to good effect. He's going to absolutely launch one on Rocco down the straight here. He's on the inside line. Campbell is not being closed down close enough, though. However, Packer opens up the ERS once again. He's going to try a lunge in towards turn 11. Not quite. Rocco still down the outside line. Tries to turn in, actually, on Packer. And obviously, they're going to be shafted neatly in towards the wall once again as Packer around the outside gets the job done on Rocco. Nice battle that in the end, even though there's a bit of contact. And Wouter is in from the lead of the race. The gap is 5 tenths between Connor and Montana. They're clearly working together. Wouter now, medium compound tyres going on. He's going to be about 6 tenths quicker per lap, I would say, on average, compared to the Aston Martin and the AlphaTauri, of course, of Connor and Montana. Wouter now is at pit lane, and do you know what? I think he's going to come out comfortably ahead of Jeroen here.
I think he should do, but of course Jerome will have the fresh tyres, so he'll able to gain a little bit. Sorry, the hotter tyres. He will gain a little bit in the first sector, but yeah, nowhere near enough. The gap might sink to around 3 seconds, but yes, it'll no problems for Wouter there, and he's 6 seconds behind Montana. And I'm intrigued now how much of a push Wouter can put on the back of Montana if he can close up to these two, because if he can, he's very much in the fight for this win. Gary is sinking like a stone, I just want to say as well. He's been passed by Izat and by Maledictus on the last lap. I don't know where Gary's pace has gone. I can only assume that is confirmation that he's got some kind of flaw or side pod damage that couldn't be fixed at the stop. So I think that is, yes, indeed confirmation of damage for Gary. I don't know why Rocco was fighting Packer so hard on that last lap, because he's yet to make a stop. Is Rocco. He's just vibing out there down in P10. He knows he's not the quickest. He's just there for a good time. And also out there for a good time, I think, is Brendan, who is... I'm surprised these hard runners haven't pitted, but I suppose they're just hoping for a safety car, aren't they?
Yeah, Montana within 0.3 of a second on the back of Connor. Rudy now into the pit lane. Wouter, in the end, has only lost a second in terms of drop-off compared to Connor and Montana, but just how much time can he gain through the corners? Same through the final couple of corners, he's gained 0.3 of a second, so Wouter is there in terms of the pace through the corners. There are many, many DRS zones around this track, 3 of them in fact, and there are many, many straights, and Wouter, I think, is going to struggle to get to the back of Connor and Montana, so this seems like a 2-horse race at this moment in time. However, though, Rudy is side by side with Yaron, coming out of the pit lane, and Yaron is ahead of Rudy. So Rudy, actually, who was behind Wouter, now drops behind Yaron, and that is the effect that the hards have on everyone. Verstappen, by the way, is getting through on Rocco. I think is still trying to put up a very valiant fight out there in 11th position, and still yet to pit, of course. Rocco in 11th, is there in 12th as well, and Hyper is on the back of Maledictus. And in fact, actually, Gary has got ahead of Maledictus now, so he's through and he's into 13th.
Gary could have been fighting for 5th or 6th place in this race. Instead, he had a difficult start once again. I think Gary's gained. But oh, someone's gone in the background. That's Hyper spun at the exit of turn 8. He's picked up damage, I think, possibly side pod or floor, but there's no visible damage, so no safety car. That was a huge drop from Hyper there. But yeah, Gary, he's had the wrong end of the stick in the races so far this season. I think he's gained places on any first lap that we've seen so far. Damage to speak of now as well. He just can't get a break. Every single race felt like Gary's had pace for a podium. It's just not happened for him. And so that showed me right for my predictions. Is that I think is going to be the next to dispatch Rocco there down towards turn 17. And Campbell gets past Brendan. Oh, Brendan's letting them all go.
Yeah, I think Brendan might be coming in the pit lane potentially for set of medium compounded size. He's already been in the pit lane, I think, if I'm not mistaken, unless my math is completely wrong. Is it on the back of Rocco in towards turn 17? Rocco goes wide, going to be coming in the pit lane, I think, here. Rocco, yep, is it through, and he's into 11th. Gary Maledictus also follow through, and Rocco's going to be dropping pretty much stone dead last, fighting out for wooden spoon, perhaps with peas right down. At least he could get some award here tonight, indeed, in terms of his performance. But Connor leads the way, Montana there in second, 0.6 of a second the gap, and again, like I said, before the first pit stops actually happened, Connor is much quicker than Montana, not down the straight, it is through the corners, and in terms of the ERS advantage, he's only got 4% as Connor. What is going to happen though? Because these guys are NSX teammates. If I was these guys, and I were in a party together with these two, I'd just say, you know what, for the sake of it, let's just fight. We know we're both good drivers, we know we can respect each other out on track, but Connor, for me, in that middle sector, through that complex, is about 4, 5 tenths quicker than Montana, and Montana has to use up all of that ERS once again to catch back up. So Connor, currently, is knocking the ball once again at Montana's court, and saying literally to Montana, you know what, pick up the pace, otherwise I'm just going to leave you. Rudy right on the back of your own as well.
I think Montana's going to have to look in both directions. Here comes Rudy, because he's got a Wouter-shaped problem coming at him by over half a second a lap. At his current pace, Wouter will catch those two. Rudy makes the move on Jerome, although Jerome will have DRS, but has he got the traction to fight this one back? Not at all, it looks like, through turn 18. But yeah, Wouter is coming. We've got a yellow flag. Hyper. That is, Hyper has gone again. And if he can't get that car moved, it could trigger a safety car in the game. And he has got damage. He's going to have rear wing and front wing damage, I think, from that one.
Yeah, I think he's lost his front wing entirely. Stewards are very quick, though. The micro stewards, I think, that is on the track, has obviously decided to not put a yellow flag out or not put a full course yellow and a VSC or indeed a safety car out on track. But Connor's still leading the way over Montana, 6 tenths of a second in the gap. It's just going to remain that way, I think, until the final 2 laps, where all hell is potentially going to break loose. Wouter, though, as you mentioned, is gaining around 6 tenths of a second, as I alluded to. On average, you can gain in terms of a lap time around here compared to Connor and Montana. And at this moment in time, as another yellow flag, and that's Maledictus round coming through turn number 8, I think. So Maledictus round through turn number 8, just before the main back straight. Wouter, though, as I was saying, 4.5 seconds now, the gap between Montana and Connor. He's got nine and a bit laps to go in this race. 4.4 seconds to gain. Is he going to gain it that much? Because I think with the straights and everything down this on this track, Wouter is going to struggle to gain on the front 2.
He's not going to gain on Montana directly because, of course, Montana's got that DRS, so Montana will be quicker down the straights. But he's got a match, well, be quicker than Connor. Connor's the one he's got to benchmark himself against. We've got another yellow flag. Hyper has gone again. Verstappen is passing Brendan into turn 17 as Brendan nearly gets his front wing chopped off there as I just jump on board on the exit. Brendan isn't in having the happiest of races, I don't think. I think he's the only one yet to pit. He is, Brendan, the only man in the field yet to pit, currently running in P10. Not a happy day for the D4 and D3 former champion. But yeah, Wouter is gaining. He's gaining at enough of a rate, but he's got to match that Connor pace. And as you said, Connor is so quick around this track, around those slow corners, probably running higher wings than Montana. That is where Wouter's real challenge lies. Because if he can catch Connor, Montana will follow. Because Montana, as we've said a few times, doesn't seem too inclined for now still to put the pressure on Connor. Although he is slowly, the front 2, well, both of them are slowly building up their DRS. Montana's was around 7 or 8% on his outlap. He did use it all to try and gain that undercut. He didn't manage it. He's now saving it up for an assault on the last 2 laps. He's up to 27% down the straight. So Montana is thinking about a move in a few laps' time.
Yeah, definitely so. Wouter has gained another 5 tenths of a second this lap around compared to Montana as well, so he is doing a good job to try and bridge that gap. Hyper, by the way, is retired, and that, I think, is in the pit lane, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that is indeed in the pit lane for Hyper, so Hyper is done. That's the first retirement on lap 22 of the race. A lap 21 it would have been for Hyper, but still, first retirement as Forza Brendan has just lost position to Izza down the straight, lets him through for Imanus through, and he's in 210th position, and Brendan becoming Brenda out on track, I think, in terms of the pace, as he's now on the back of Izza and still not yet pitting in. I wonder if he is realising clouds beginning to build over the circuit. I'm just going to throw out an absolute spanner into the works here. He can only be staying out, I think, for potential rain. But even then, I think it'll take 3 or 4 laps to get into the track, and then pretty much at the end of the race then. So I think that fallacy that I'm trying to make up, I think, is just going to remain a fallacy, I think. And Brendan struggling in terms of the pace. He's got Gary now on the back, and we're better see a battle for the Irishman, as I think Montana, I've just spotted through turn number 12. I think he made a mistake coming through turn number 12. And Connor has gapped him by another 3 tenths of a second. But now Brendan and Gary battle the Irishman. It is County Wicklow against County Sligo, I think, to be honest. And Gary through and he's into 11th. Don't know where they live, by the way. I just made that one up. So Gary through and he's into 11th. Easy as you like. And Gary now sets his sights on Izza.
Well, I think that's ambitious for Gary. I think with the damage he's carrying, probably a P11 is the best he can hope for. I think Izzat has looked quite quick today in his recovery from that one, although Brendan has stuck it in the wall and he's lost his front wing, or most of it, and he's nearly causing a big yellow flag here. He's got to be lucky that he doesn't get disqualified for driving the wrong way up the track. Again, he keeps the yellow flags away long. He gets a 10-second penalty for his troubles there. Keeps the yellow flags away, or gets them away quick enough that they don't automatically trigger a safety car. But yeah, that was... I don't see why Brendan needed to make that cut, but I can only presume he's going to come into the pit at the end of this lap and hit retire. Because as you said, the clouds are gathering, but if we see any rain, I think it's going to take far too long for it to switch to Inters to get that pit stop back.
Yeah, right side end plate for Brendan. In terms of damage, he is into the pit lane. Goes absolutely... Well, I thought it was going to go absolutely spinning into the pit lane there, but he doesn't. He is in Is he going to retire the car, or is he just going to go for the soft compounded side for the fastest lap attempt? I think that might be potentially the case in what he is trying to do. Montana, by the way, for the first time, is beginning to apply a bit of pressure to Connor out in front. Lap 23 out of 29. We've still got 6 laps to go after this one is completed. And Montana, for the first time, is beginning to wrestle that AlphaTauri into contention once again. The Aston Martin has looked quicker than him throughout the lap, I've got to say. And Montana, for the first time, beginning to look quite dangerous on the back of Connor. He's only 4 tenths away, doing a good job as it stands. Wouter there, by the way, is in third. He's getting another 4 tenths per second, but the gap is now beginning to stagnate between first and second and third. And Wouter is obviously not bringing Rudy with him, so therefore can't really have anybody to help him. And I don't think in 6 laps' time he's going to gain 5 tenths per second a lap. And even if he does, 5 tenths per second a lap is going to put him 6 tenths per second away, basically on the final lap of the race. So Wouter, unfortunately for him, may be running out of time and running out of contention in terms of this race win.
Yeah, I don't think Wouter's pace is quite good enough. I just had a quick look at the race directory. He's only around 4 tenths a lap quicker than Connor right now. Not enough. His only hope is that it gets a little bit feisty and we get some handbags between Montana and Connor when they do go wheel to wheel. They are continuing their ERS conservation mission. Brendan gets a 3-second penalty there because Connor is up to 38%, Montana's up to 36%, and this is at the end of the straight, so they're in a very healthy looking position now with the ERS. They are preparing to do battle, I can only assume. Wouter is not going to be in this equation, I don't think. Rudy's looked very good on this stint, though, as well. Have we got any other battles? Well, actually, we have. We've got Rocco and Resify, the only 2 drivers, other than our top 2, who are in DRS range of each other. Otherwise, it's stagnated, as you said, with Wouter's gap a little bit. Gilbream's quite close to Packer, though.
I think, I've just caught that on stream, Rocco has just used the track limit at turn number 8 to be abused there, so I think there might be a penalty coming his way. That was unfortunately caught on stream as well, and on the wide-out camera angle, so it was a clear-cut track extension. Obviously, he's trying to defend the position off Resify. Resify, I think, is still in contention there for a possible top 15 position. But in terms of the penalties, which we haven't ran through actually this race, 3 seconds for your own, 3 seconds for Campbell, Verstappen on 3, Maledictus on 3, Rocco on 6, Resify on 11, and Forza Brendan on 13. If he decides to get that 10-second penalty removed, which I think is very unlikely because that was his own fault, to be honest. As now Resify on the back of Rocco once again down the straight in towards turn number 17. Not closing enough and not using the battery enough to try and close in. Either Resify, I think, is just settled to his fate. May as well try and get the move done out on track, but he has got 5 second more penalties, basically, than Rocco ahead of him. So Resify there in 16th. He's going to stick to that battle as well. Battle, though, beginning to develop further up the field is Yildirim on the back of Packer. Packer there in 7th, beginning to now go off in terms of the cliff on the mediums. And Yildirim, for the first time, was within around 5-6 tenths per second. And now is going to gain that time back, of course, down the straight. And Yildirim now maybe setting the sights on a top 7 finish, because Packer there, not the easiest to get past, but they're both around the same ERS range. And if Yildirim can up his pace, Packer might be a sitting duck.
I think so. Packer, I was watching his gap to Campbell, because of course Campbell has a 3-second penalty. Packer was losing time. He was slipping away from him towards Campbell. He's not quite as happy here as he was in the wet weather in qualifying. Say, derating away. I think Gilbream will get this move done, if not this lap, maybe next lap, or the lap after that. He seems the quicker car. I think, in fact, he's going to get it done now, because look at that gaining speed. The overspeed the Haas has got, but he decides to bide his time. Perhaps he wants to wait until lap 29, either for the cameras or to give Packer minimal chance to return the overtake. We shall see. Well, we're going to go towards turn 1 here, because Gilbream's got a mammoth exit through turn 18. Packer covers the inside line. Gilbream's going to go around the outside line. He gives a little squeeze from Packer, and Packer just shuts him off and says, no, you're not coming through to turn 2. And Gilbream has to wait another lap, or at least another DRS zone, as he slips back on the exit there. He loses a couple of tenths, and the gap slips to around 5 tenths of a second, as it is up front as well now.
Yeah, it is. Packer there in 7th, Yildirim there in 8th, Resify and Rocco are having their battle. Oh, Rocco's in the pit lane, that's why. So Rocco in the pit. Connor and Montana, though, 4.5 tenths per second for the lead. Montana, once again, beginning to save up that ERS, maybe for the last 2-lap attack that we know he has got planned in terms of this race. And I think from this point onwards, no safety cars and no VSC certainly are going to be deployed out on track either, as Connor leads the way with Montana, his NSX teammates hunting him down. Not teammates though out on track, We have seen a good battle between these two in the past, of course, in Season 6 and in Season 7. And Connor, once again, and Montana are about to go, once again, for a ding-dong battle like Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk, of course, later on in terms of the boxing. Hopefully Anthony Joshua wins, of course. Usyk is a very strong fighter. And speaking of fighting, Yildirim on the back of Packer once again. He's now going to get the move done, albeit a lap later than normal. Yildirim through down the inside into turn 17, and he's through and he's into 7th as Packer actually gets it up and under. And he's right on the back of him down the straight once again. So Packer, the American, might have a go in towards turn number 1 on the back of Yildirim. Not going to get the move done there though. Yildirim through and he's into 7th.
Nice move from Yildirim, but he's got to make it stick, and he's got He's got 9 DRS zones to survive yet before he can lay claim to that 7th place. And Packer holding to the back of that Haas very nicely. Montana has used some ERS down the straight. I think he's getting ready for a move, and it could be a move towards 10-11. Not yet, but Montana is as close as he's been to the back of Connor. He was so close. Another driver might have made a lunge there, but Montana, the thinking, discerning, calculating man that he is probably thinking in 4D chess, 3 overtakes ahead, and he's still biding his time.
Look at the gap though. Connor has pulled out another 0.3 of a second. If Connor keeps on up for another 2 laps, Montana is not going to fight back, even with however much ERS he's got. He's got 40% at the minute. Connor has got 49%, so he's got more ERS as well. Connor and Montana coming down to the absolute wire here. 2 laps to go, final 11 kilometers of this race about to get now going. Further down the field as well. You've just seen something?
Just Montana nearly dropped it. He got a huge moment on traction. He was turning left through a right-hander for a good well, it felt like a good second there. We've got a death, that is Rocco at turn 8. But yeah, Montana on the limit because he was looking, I dare say, irritated, angry on traction there coming through the last corner. He's reduced the area though back down to around half a second, but Connor now has a 10% ERS advantage. 1.5 laps to go.
1.5 laps to go, and again he beaches himself on the curb, and that leaves him another 1/10 of a second, Montana. But immediately he's got the ERS open. Now closing in. He's going to have to go for the move, I'm afraid to say, because Connor is absolutely blind to the fact that Montana's going to pass him down the inside line. Gets the job done. Connor, though, waltzes around the outside, and the Aston Martin keeps the lead of the race. Brilliant move by the Aston Martin. And Montana there is still in the fight, and it's 3.5 seconds back to Wouter. Ignore the rest of the field at this point. We're going to get the battle on for the race lead because Connor and Montana, final 2 laps of the race. Again, Connor quite strong. Montana stronger, though, this time around. And now within 4.5 of a second, he's using up his battery to good effect. Is he going to try and lunge the move and try and make the escape on the final lap of the race? Montana, here he comes. The Alpha Tower in the back of the Aston Martin passes them into the braking zone, into turn 17. But Connor, once again, pretty much getting the up and under done nearly. Connor's now going to have a fight back on Montana, and this is going to go right down to the wire. 5.5 kilometres left, and now Connor coming back at Montana. This is the fight we wanted to see, and the Aston Martin going all the way around the outside towards turn number 1. That's Rocco, that's spun on the exit of turn number 1 as well. But Connor back through, and he's into the lead of the race. Could have worked out in Montana's favour. It has indeed worked out in Montana's favour. Connor leads the race. Montana in second. This is going to be an absolute awesome final lap of the race.
Montana's now got the huge decision of does he make the move into turn 11 and risk giving Connor the chance to pay it back as Connor gets 5-second penalty.
No.
That'll get removed. That'll be for Rocco's ghostly Mercedes. That'll get removed, I'm sure, if he reports it. But now Montana's problem is, does he make the move here? Does he wait for turn 17? We saw how good Connor was through that middle complex last time around. Montana's gaining, but he's gaining super late, and it is going to be a do-or-die move into turn 17 with just 1 and a bit sectors to go. This is the race win right here between these two, who have been in an absolute class of their own today.
Connor's got more ERS, though. It was a much better as well compared to Montana through the chicane there of 16 and 17. And now Connor on the run down in towards turn 17. Montana 6/10 of a second. I think he's resigned to the fact he might lose this unless the very late lunge. 5.5 tenths away, that is it. And I think Connor, obviously, as you say, that 5-second penalty is going to get removed. Connor draining that battery to good effect as well into the final couple of corners. For once, I'm going to get a prediction right as well. Connor around the final corner, on the run to the line. He wins the Miami Grand Prix and makes it a 1-2 for NSX. Ignore the timings on the left-hand side. That will be taken off. Wouter there in the end across the line to finish in third. Rudy there in fourth drove a very good race. Yildirim and Packer, by the way, side by side. Packer lunges there on the inside line. Now through turn 17, I think Yildirim got the move done. So Yildirim actually retakes the position of Packer through and he's into 7th. Packer there down in 8th, but he is obviously going to gain in terms of positions as well. Verstappen and Izza all the way fighting to the line as well. Great fights further down the field. Verstappen on the back of Izza. Izza remains in 9th. Verstappen there in 10th. Gary in the end finishes in the top 10. And Maledictus, I think, might lose out in terms of penalties here. He's down in 12th position. Rocco, by the way, also finished across the line in 18th. J. Cole around the final corner on the run to the line. Finishes 13th. Gladbach in the end has spun out the final corner. Don't want to be spinning on the final lap, my friend. And unfortunately, Gladbach there down in 14th has got right side unplate damage. But he 26 laps on a set of hards, by the way. Well done to him. Well done for making 26 laps on a set of hards work. Reservoir with a 5-second penalty at the end. Pease jumps ahead of him. We're waiting for Brendan to come across the line as well. They're in 17th position as the Irishman comes to the line. And he finishes there in 17th. What a fight that was. What a final 2 laps of the race. Don't think we've seen as tense as that between Connor and Montana since the Alpha Tricks battles. Remember in Season 3, back in the day? Pretty much like that, I think, around here in Miami. Izza gets driver of the day, I think, awarded by... Oh, sorry, Williams got awarded the driver of the day, awarded by the in-game fans. I think it was Rudy, if I'm not mistaken. But to the top step of the podium, it will be NSX Connor. Might show Montana on terms of the interviews and in terms of the graphics here. But it is Connor that will take the race win if that 5-second penalty, of course, gets removed. What a final lap of the race, though. Hop, skipping and jumping onto the top step of the podium for now as Montana. But I know for a fact you realise that 5-second penalty, all down to a glitch, and that means he will finish 2nd in the race.
He will indeed. I don't want to say Connor plays Montana, but I think he did. If it's possible to overthink the last 3 laps of a race, I think Montana did. Sometimes, as Daniel Ricciardo would say, you've just got to send it when you get the chance. Montana should have backed his own abilities, I think, that he could get past and hold on to that position. Instead, he had some scruffy exits in those last few laps. He had to burn unnecessary ERX to hang on to the back of Connor just to get himself into an opportunity to overtake, rather than to make the overtake itself, and that cost him in the end. He overthought, I think. He over-battled, and it cost him 4 wins out of 4. Connor becomes our 2nd winner of the season, and, well, as you say, if that penalty gets removed, which I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll report that and blame it all on Rocco, which I think is what he should do. But it is, for now, Montana out on top, White there in 2nd, Connor there in 3rd. Obviously, we know what might be coming in terms of that 5-second penalty removal. Rudy there in 4th, Yerone there in 5th, Campbell in 6th, Packer in 7th, Yildirim is a Gary round off the top 10, Verstappen and Maledictus round off the top 12, so they all pick up points. Jekyll, Gladbach, Pease, Reservoir, Brendan filling out the 17 drivers. Rocco finished the lap down there in 18th on Hyper. They're the only DNF out on track, and that was, of course, in the pit lane. Really good racing, of course, out on track. And I've already asked, by the way, are we going to get the top 3 in? And I can see Montana is already in the waiting room, waiting for us. And I think we'll be able to... Do you want to move over to there, or shall we move him in here? If Killer is still here with me.
I am indeed. Sorry, I should have a quick drink. I think we'll move over to there because we had problems before, didn't we? Trying to get in here, I think. So let's move over to the waiting room.
We did indeed. I will see you there in just a second. And there we go. We're now in the Division 1 waiting room alongside our current race winner, of course, Mr. NSX Montana. And Montana, for the first time this season, you had a fight, and my God, it was a good one.
Hello, yeah, you just blown absolutely my ears off with this goal. Yeah, so, I don't know, I had a really shocking pace, probably pace for top 8 all week long. And then I said some rain poems before the start of the race. And it seemed to work in quali, so that was my saving grace. Still put it on pole with probably the lowest wings out of everyone in the wet, so quite a scruffy lap at the end, but we take that. And yeah, then it was just like hanging on with Connor, making soft, medium hard work. And then at the end, we had a little battle, but didn't want to risk too much because before this race, I would have taken a P5. So P2 is more than enough, and gaining on Wouter as well.
Yeah, gaining on Wouter as well. I think you had a 44-point advantage coming into tonight as well. But talk us through that final 2, that battle. I'm guessing you both were in a party. Was that decision given for you both to fight? Because I know you're both in the same team, and I know I've seen you fight before, and we were treated there to an absolute wondrous battle.
Yeah, we just said it's free to fight. Obviously, it didn't make sense to battle before that. So we just had to see if Root to catch us or not. And then I gave it a go. I tried to be ahead into the last lap, but I knew he just could break so much later in all the corners and was quicker through sector 1. So I tried to get ahead there, but yeah, he was just too good this week. I have to say that. And yeah, I gave it a little go, but I knew that it would be hard. So I'm more than happy with P2. And yeah, he's going to get that penalty removed because Rocco just did some donuts for us there.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I think that Rocco did. I think he spun out of turn number 1 in terms of that. Killer Blue, I'm going to come across to you. Any questions?
Not on this race. I feel like it felt quite straightforward. I want to say almost orchestrated until the last 2 laps. Even the battle itself felt a little bit orchestrated. But it was good fun for us to watch in the commentary box. But I'll say I'll ask the question of Monza next week. 2 parts. How are you feeling there? Because I know Gary said you weren't particularly the happiest bunny around Miami. It didn't particularly suit you, but you still came away with a great second place. So how's Monza suiting you? And secondly, will you be running 0-0 wings?
I was actually planning to run something similar to that today, but the wets changed it a bit. I don't know. I haven't driven Monza yet, but I think ABS works there in comparison to this shit track today. So yeah, just gonna be a bit of a shame that you have to obliterate turn 4, the chicane, to gain a lot of time without getting floor damage. So yeah, I don't know. I just hope to be in the mix again, and it's probably impossible to break the DRS train. So probably a 1 on 0-0 wings and some last lap battles again.
Yeah, certainly a good battle, obviously, out on track, and hopefully we will get to see more, of course, in Monza next week. Until then, though, Montana, go and enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You are very welcome indeed. And we'll now move on, of course, to the man who, in the end, on the graphic, finished in P3. If he gets that 5-second penalty removed, of course, he'll be our race winner. Of course, it is Mr. NSX Connor. And Connor, for once, I actually predicted you for a race win. Talk us through it.
Yeah. Very nice to actually finish a race this season and not finish it in the wall. Just to get a nice clean race, and yeah, felt pretty good. Pace was decent when I first started this track, so I actually put a bit more practice in rather than just wasting my time when I'm slow. So yeah, pretty happy with the result, and a nice little battle, 2 laps to the end.
Yeah, it was a really intense battle, I've got to say, between you both as well. In terms of the overall pace per lap, you were quicker than Montano, I think, in that middle sector. What was it in the middle sector that gained you so much time? Because I think in the complex section you were getting about 3 or 4 tenths.
Yeah, I had a lot of front end of my setup. So at the end of the straight and that little roundabout and that shit chicane, I think it just suited me there. And decent traction onto the long straight as well. So I think I was gaining a lot of time there. But he was really quick on the straights, or that was just with DRS as well. But yeah, I think I had it covered. But you know, you never know with Montana. He's just he pulls something out of nowhere.
Yeah, he is the magician that is no longer, I think, in terms of race wins so far this season in LOE. Of course, you obviously will get that race win if you put in that 5-second penalty removal. Killer, I'm going to come across to you. Any questions?
Yeah, as you said, you kind of had a bit of a scruffy start to the season. Do you think this can kickstart something now, at the very least, a challenge for P2? Do you even think maybe you can hang on to Montana's coattails going forward through the season if you put a string of results together?
Yeah, I think I had a few things been differently. The pace has been there all season. Obviously, the virtual safety car Delta dropping out of nowhere, having the drive-through, and then Imola, I was just nowhere. And obviously, didn't make a lap. The same with USA. Yeah, the pace has been there. I just got to keep it clean, put it all together, and just avoid everyone. Try and drive and clear as much as I can. I think that's how I'll get the best result.
Yeah, and obviously Monza next week as well. How do you think you're going to get on around that?
It's normally a decent track for me, but I don't know. I don't think I've driven it yet. So yeah, probably just no downforce and DRS train. Another fun one. But yeah, optimistic about it. But you know, I'll end up in a wall at some point, so maybe there.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. If you put practice in like you did this week, you never know. You might be on the top step of the podium potentially once again. Go and enjoy your evening, Connor.
Thank you. Cheers.
You are very welcome indeed. And I think that rounds us off because I don't think we've got Wouter joining us, unfortunately. So that is the end for tonight in terms of the interviews. A big thank you, of course, to Montana and to Connor, who have already left the chat. But a big thank you to them for joining us and giving up their time to speak to us in terms of the interviews. As we alluded to there in the interviews, Mr. Killer Blue, we've got Monza next week. How do you think the drivers are going to get on around there? Because potentially could be one of the closest qualifying sessions of the season, and potentially one of the closest races of the season.
I agree on both counts there. I think we're very much due for a classic D1 train as we know and love. 3 mammoth DRS zones around Monza, which makes it hard to do a run and hide. The only option is to do what Montana did this week and last week, which is start on the softer tyres, try and get away. But I think for the most part we are set in. It's a very narrow track, very high speed. The only real overtaking opportunity is into turn 1. If you're in a trainer, that is. So I think we could be set for, as you say, a very close, very tense, very cagey affair that might be a bit something of a slow burner, as Imola was.
Yeah, definitely so. And obviously, in terms of Monza, we should notice that it is the Temple of Speed, and around 80% of the lap can be taken at full flat-out speed. So if there's not DRS trains and there is not a lot of battling on track of action, then maybe tune out for a week, and then we'll be back, of course, in Singapore, which I'm sure will provide a lot of action on the 3rd of September. And then going through the rest of the calendar as well, up until our break week after Austria, that'll be the 29th of October, day before my girlfriend's birthday as well, which is quite noticeable. Spain on Bonfire Night, hopefully might get fireworks there, with Saudi Arabia, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, of course, to end off the season back on the 26th of November. But that is it from us tonight. We have to wish Mr. Killer Blue luck in D2 as well. Hopefully he might put on another good show like he did last week in Austin. And we have to wait and see, of course, what happens in terms of Division 2 and Division 4. And in terms of Division 2 and Division 4, this tonight, I'm just going to get the commentary lineup up just to be sure of who was commentating on what. As of course, for Division 2, Mr. J. Cole and Mr. QVO Verstappen taking the action for Division 2. His comments list is not here. I think he's at a themed party, he said to me last night. Not sure what themed party it is. Hopefully he's having a good time, though. And in Division 4, of course, it is Division 1's own QVO Packer, alongside Old Maverick, who has got his internet working, I can report as well. So he will be there for Division 4, and you can tune in for that in around 14 minutes' time. So for myself and Mr. Killer Blue, thank you so much